Emily!
Who are you?
I was... What? You don't remember me?
No, it's been a while since I've been here.
And that's fair. I've been here every day waiting for you to come back.
Oh my gosh, Kyle!
Yeah, it's me. You don't recognize me?
Well, you've got all this... You're literally coated in hair.
Yeah, that's because it is a really funny story.
Well, we don't have time.
Oh.
Cue the theme music.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperatore take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Wow, what an intro.
What an intro. Hey, since we're introing, I'm Emily, everybody.
I'm Kyle Nobody.
Oh, you're not nobody. You are the co-host of Butter No Parsnips.
Oh, tell us about that.
That's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing now.
You've got a word this week, right?
Oh, no, don't do this to me, Emily.
No, I've got a word this week.
Yes, it is your turn. I'm so excited. I've never been more excited in my life, and I was around for the Hess truck craze, so...
Wow. This is... I really gotta deliver right now.
Yeah, you do. It's like Christmas morning. Or 1 a.m. Christmas when I can't fall asleep.
Well, that's considered morning.
No. Are we going to have a debate about what morning is? Morning is when you wake up, no matter what time it is.
I'm so sorry. All right, you want to hear this word, Kyle, or what?
Yeah, let's hear the word. Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, Kyle, your word this week is quincunx. Quincunx.
What is this?
It's a word.
Emily, Roman numerals do not count as words in the English language. Quincunx?
Quincunx.
Oh, where am I even supposed to start? Okay, so it's definitely 5 or something.
It relates to the number 5. You're right.
Relates to the number 5. So it's like a number 5 second cousin? Great uncle? Could have married in, maybe?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, there are actually a few different meanings for this word, but they all sort of hover around the number 5.
I cannot believe for 1 second that this word has more than one meaning.
This is a historic word. You just wait. There's a lot.
This is... Okay. Is it a noun?
It is a noun. The adjective form is quincunxial.
You can't even say it. That's how hard of a word it is.
It is. Well, it is because the first 1,000 times I looked at it, I was pronouncing it in my head as quincunx.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I could see that.
Because quincunxial sounds better to me, but I think it's quincunxial.
Okay, so it's a noun. Kunx.
It is.
Kunx. Is it, is it animal related?
No.
Is it mineral related?
No.
I'm going to ask if it's a vegetable.
Oh, that would be good for Butter No Parsnips, but it is not vegetable related.
Quincunx. Okay, can it be in any other... Oh, I assume it's Latin.
It absolutely is Latin.
Ooh, I mean, I am at a loss here. I don't think I'm going to get much further with
true.
kunx
I mean,
here.
you got as close as you could get by guessing that it relates to the number 5.
I would guess it's a malady like when you get your 5th concussion, you get like a quincunx card. Like it's like like you get a free like visit to a CAT scan or something. I don't know. Quincunx.
Yeah. No, it's not that.
Okay.
So, like I said, it has a few meanings, but the main definition that gets used the most is a geometric pattern consisting of 5 points arranged in a cross, with 4 of them forming a rectangle and the 5th at its center. So basically like the 5 side on a die.
That's an X.
Yeah, it can be a cross or an X, basically.
Okay. I'm
but
sorry,
just
there's a word for that?
4 points around the side and 1 in the middle.
That's
the word
insane.
for it is quincunx.
Wait, I'm sorry. So you're telling me that quincunx is describing just 5 points in space?
Well, And I mean, in like as a pattern that gets used in things.
Oh, is this used like for pattern making, or is it like a mathematical thing?
Well, let's talk about all the ways that it's used. So let's talk about originally where the word comes from, because the original meaning, it is actually the name of a coin, a bronze coin used very briefly in Rome during the 200s BC.
Good. I was around then. I vacationed to 200s BC Rome.
So you had to transfer your coins to Quincunx.
To Quincunx. It was really hard, with the like whole EU thing going on back then.
Yeah. So in the Roman monetary system, their sort of main coin was called an as, just AS. That was like their dollar, and there were different coins for like 2 ases, a half an as, a quarter.
I got half an as.
You do. It is the plural of as is written out. It's pronounced ases, but it is spelled asses.
Like ASSES?
Yes, but it's asses.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, sure.
Right.
They're playing a prank on us.
Yeah, it's just a ploy to get scholars to say ass.
Yeah. They're like, thousands of years from now, these guys, they're not even going to know what hit them.
Yeah, so there was the coin called the as, and then there was an uncia, which is 1/12 of an as. And then
why?
I don't know. And that was just used like during the Roman Republic, which is what came before the Roman Empire. And then for some unknown reason, solely during the Second Punic War, only then, they decided they needed a coin that was 5/12 of an as.
Oh,
so literally,
I'm sorry.
The word quincunx is quinque, which meant 5, and uncia, which meant 1/12, just smushed together. 5/12 of an as.
So you're telling me that the only currency that they had at that time when they introduced this coin was just a whole and then 1/12 of a whole?
No, I mean there was a half, a third, a quarter, a sixth, and a 12th.
That's so much math.
5. There was 2/3 and there was 5/12.
Oh my god. No wonder why that empire fell.
Yeah, it's truly.
What an economic nightmare.
I know. You'd have so many coins. Your pockets would weigh 20 pounds.
Oh my god. I'm just surprised that they worked in base 12. That's really interesting to begin with.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is why our time system is a base 12 system. I think it originates with the Romans, I think.
You're saying that's why we got 12 hours and 12 months and 12 eggs? That's time related, right?
Yeah, anything with 12.
And a baker's dozen is called that because they get an extra year to live.
Oh my god. But not like biological. It's just like they don't get ceremonially killed as early.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You lucky duck. We'll see you next year.
You get one get out of jail free card if you're a baker.
Does everybody's lining up to become a baker?
Yeah.
Just for the perks, the health insurance.
So the quincunx, a Roman coin, and the design of the coin was not consistent because, like, what could be consistent in the 200s BC? But it always had 5 dots somewhere on it to indicate the value. And sometimes the 5 dots were arranged in a quincunx.
Just sometimes.
Only sometimes. Sometimes they were in a row.
Wow. That's really interesting. That seems like a really smart way to symbolize the worth of the coin, like, easily. Just be like, all right, there's 5 dots.
Which you would automatically assume stands for 5/12.
Yeah. You'd automatically be like, all right, I got 5/12 here. I just need, I don't know, 6 more of these and I'll have an even number.
Oh boy, Kyle, how long has it been since you've done math?
10 12s, 10 12s, 20 12s. Oh, you can't do that. Then you'll never have an even number.
Oh, you mean you'd have to have so many quincunxes?
Yes, yeah, to get to get a whole number of asses.
Of asses.
Yeah. How do I get a whole ass out of this pile of quincunx?
I wish I knew.
So, are you telling me that our modern day, die gets the quincunx from the coin? Did they not have die that looked like that back then?
Well,
dice?
we're gonna talk about yeah. I mean, we should have that discussion as well. As I'm just gonna come out and say it. I hate people that say the plural of dice is die, because you're wrong.
I did that accidentally, and now I feel really attacked. I'm so sorry.
I'm not gonna beat around the bush here.
Oh God, this is the end. She kicked me off the podcast here.
I am firmly on one side of this debate.
Okay, I've never had to take a horse in this race, and I'd never had to take a.
I mean, you came out really strong when you said die just now.
I meant as in a singular die. Have they never had a die?
Oh, all right, fair enough.
But I mean, you knew what I meant, and that's English, baby.
But you're still wrong.
I'll take it. That's fine.
But we're going to talk about dice later, so I don't know why I got so fired up just now.
That's all right. We can just retroactively
conversation. Just put that conversation later on.
Yeah.
Anyway, the word quincunx, originally referred to the coin in Rome, came to English around the 1500s, originally meaning 5/12 of a pound, although looking at some old dictionaries, it looks like it could have just meant 5%. It's tough to tell.
Why would they need either of those numbers? 5% is just a 20th. I guess, well then, maybe that's where we're getting into cents, like 5 cents.
I guess in England, 5 pence.
Yeah, maybe that's where we get pence and nickels from.
So I've got this...
Pence and Nickels, by the way, I assume is a buddy cop duo starring Mike Pence and...
the character Josh from Drake and Josh.
God, what a... Vice President Pence! I just got a game sphere! Can I meet Oprah?
These are A1 Drake and Josh jokes coming at you.
Yeah, well, now you gotta be Mike Pence. Do it. Let's hear it. What's your Mike Pence impersonation, Emily?
Cool. My producer just said I don't have to. Tactfully sidestepping this Mike Pence conversation, I've got a quote from an old dictionary here.
Okay, well, yeah, what's that?
From the Dictionary of Sir Thomas Eliot Knight. I guess
Fancy.
Thomas Eliot, Knight, from 1538.
Oh, gotcha. His name wasn't Thomas Eliot Knight. I see.
No, it's his title, I think. And the dictionary definition for quincunx, the first one he lists is 5 ounces, and at the time, an ounce was a coin that was worth 1/12 of a pound. So they also had a base 12 system at one point.
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah,
I really can't get over that.
Yeah, it's just a nonsensical way to go through life.
I mean, it's just a bad look, you know? Like looking back, like now in the future, like I feel like that's got to be an embarrassing fact that countries don't want to be known about them, you know? It's
of
like
course,
seeing old pictures of them with bad haircuts.
This is all coming from Americans who still use the imperial system of measurement, so...
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
We're kind of on the wrong side of that history. And then the next definition in here, Sir Thomas Eliot Knight says, also the gain of 5 in 100 by exchange amongst merchants, which is a little vaguely written, but it sounds like it means basically like taking 5% off the top in a deal.
Was called quincunx?
Was called a quincunx.
That's really interesting. That's fun.
Yeah. It's weird that it could mean 5/12 or 5%.
So the quincunx, the percent definition comes from English, not from Latin.
Yeah, from English.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
According to this man's dictionary.
Yeah.
And then there's a third definition here, which says, it was also an order of setting of trees in a garden or orchard very exactly, so that which way soever that a man did look, the trees stood directly against one another.
What? Oh.
And this is where the geometric pattern comes in. Because
I'm going insane.
the original context for using the word quincunx to mean like a pattern was specifically in planting trees in like staggered rows. So like if you were planting an orchard, you'd plant like a row of 5 and then a row of 4, kind of diagonally in, and then another row of 5 and alternating.
I am literally not visualizing what you're telling me right now.
Like how the stars on the flag are not in like flat rows, they're in like staggered rows.
Oh, I see. That's called quincunx?
Yeah, that is quincunxial tree planting. And it was very common at the time, and still today, because it maximizes the amount of sunlight that each tree is getting.
Sure.
So I have another quote from another 1500s dictionary here, and you're going to like this one in particular because this quote is from the Abecedarium Anglico-Latinum. Kyle, I was so excited when I read that. Written by Richard Hewlett? Hewlett? Hewloet. I don't have the first clue how to pronounce that.
Hewlett.
Yeah. But it's from an Abecedarium. That's what's most important.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome.
Yes. And the Abecedarium defines a quincunx as an exact order of setting of trees or plants of pleasure in a garden or orchard, which be so checkered that a man may walk which way he list.
That's so twee.
It is. Yeah, so that was like for hundreds of years, like that was the context that people used the word quincunx in, was just tree planting.
Wow. So I guess that's like, that became like a gardening term, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, like a horticultural term.
That's really interesting. Because it's like, there's so many steps to get to that, but it like makes sense.
Yeah, but then like that was the original step, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, and before we move on from the tree planting thing, I want to talk about what seems to be the most influential usage of the word quincunx, which is a book all about tree planting.
Okay, all right, yes, yeah, tell me about it.
So it comes from the 17th century writer Sir Thomas Browne with an E on the end. And I don't want to talk about him for too long because it's not like super relevant to the word, but he was apparently an immensely influential writer in the 1600s.
Oh, okay.
There are lots
of... A guy
of...
named Thomas, who would have guessed?
But to give you the broad strokes, he was very well studied. He was a polymath. His writing often covered a lot of different fields and employed a lot of different writing styles. And all that basically boils down to his writing was typically very esoteric and complex and confusing and hard to read, but contained some of the most beautiful turns of phrase.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because he studied so many different writing styles too.
Oh, that's really fun.
So his writing was like very like humorous and witty and eloquent, but so dense.
But he was writing mostly nonfiction works?
Yeah. And he was writing a lot about, like, he was kind of combining different fields, like scientific fields and religious fields and medicine and mysticism and all sorts of different things.
Wow. And
kind of looking at where they intersect. The book in question here is called The Garden of Cyrus, or The Quincunxial Lozenge, or Network Plantations of the Ancients, Naturally, Artificially, and Mystically Considered. That is all on the title page.
Of course it is.
Yeah, goes all the way down the page, as many old books do.
I'm sorry, quincunxial lozenge?
Lozenge, yes. Apparently, what the word lozenge means is just a rhombus.
No.
Yes, I looked it up. It just means a diamond shape.
That's insane.
Which is what shape the trees make when they're in those staggered rows.
When they're quincunxial.
They're quincunxial.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
And the book is even more insane because it's like just a very rambly nonsensical book that talks about a bunch of different things. But like the main thing it talks about is the quincunx as it relates to tree planting. The Garden of Cyrus in the title is referring to Cyrus the Elder, who was a Persian king. He was the founder of the first Persian Empire. But apparently in his spare time, he was just really into like horticulture and gardening.
Gardening. He was just a green thumb.
Yeah. And the book talks about how he contributed to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. But also I did some research and there doesn't appear to be any outside evidence to back that up.
Yeah. And also, this thing that doesn't exist anymore, it was definitely me. and I imagine it was quincunxio.
He hung all the hanging plants in a quincunx, I promise.
In a quincunx.
But he also, in this book, spends a lot of time talking about like how quincunxes appear just all throughout nature, like in the way that stars line up and in seeds and flowers and the shapes of animals. He was like, if you look at like the human body and you just ignore the head and look at the arms and legs and the torso, that's insane. Like a quincunx, right?
That's just insane. That is
It's absolutely insane.
I mean, it sounds to me like he's in a quincunx cult and he's just like, no, I swear it's everywhere. Don't they talk to you at night?
I open my eyes and all I see are quincunxes.
He's gotten his like pupils surgically changed to be squares.
Oh my god. Yeah, but it did sound insane, and that seems to be what that was like the main takeaway from this book, was that Sir Thomas Browne was insane about quincunxes.
Oh, he's a loony.
Yeah. I have a couple of reviews here from like academic letters and papers that people have written about this book. I have one from famed English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge.
Oh, wow.
From 1804. He was, I think, writing a letter to somebody where he talked about this book. And he compared it to like past writings of Thomas Browne's. And he said, quote, "There is the same attention to oddities, to the remoteness and minutiae of vegetable terms, the same entireness of subject. You have quincunxes in heaven above, quincunxes in earth below, and quincunxes in the water beneath the earth. Quincunxes in deity, quincunxes in the mind of man, quincunxes in bones, in the optic nerves, in the roots of trees, in leaves, in petals, in everything."
Oh my god, that's so funny.
And then I have another quote from another English poet named Edmund Gosse from 1905, 100 years later. And he's writing like an academic essay about the book. And he says, quote, "Gathering his forces, it is quincunx, quincunx all the way until the very sky itself is darkened with revolving chessboards." And then he goes on to say, "And yet this radically bad book contains some of the most lovely paragraphs which passed from an English pen during the 17th century.
So funny.
So he's like, it's awful, but some of the writing is good.
It's beautiful. I just can't stand it anymore.
Yeah. And then actually both of those reviews quote the same little blurb in the closing of the book, The Quincunxial Lozenge. So I will read a bit of that blurb here because it actually is very well written.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love. Now I'm really interested in to hear his writing style.
Yeah. So after he has gone through his quincunx rant, he sort of brings the book to a close in the last couple paragraphs. And he says, quote, "But the quincunx of heaven runs low, and 'tis time to close the 5 ports of knowledge. We are unwilling to spin out our awaking thoughts into the phantasms of sleep, which often continueth precogitations, making cables of cobwebs and wildernesses of handsome groves."
That is beautiful.
I love cables of cobwebs and wildernesses of handsome groves.
That's like
that absolutely
such
lovely.
wonderful imagery for something that's so abstract.
I know.
Wow.
So that's like, apparently that is Thomas Browne in a nutshell. Like, nutcase rantings, but beautiful prose.
I mean, I love that's my kind of artist, you know.
But as time went on, the definition of the word started to extend out from tree planting and just sort of widened out to anything with that pattern of like either staggered rows or, 4 dots in a square with 1 dot in the middle. And the pattern is used in a bunch of different things.
So it can mean both patterns. It can mean like a checkerboard or just the 5 dots.
Yeah, or just the 5
which
dots.
Is just which is, I guess, just a part of that pattern.
Yes, it is. If you think it's just like a staggered row of 2, 1, and 2, basically.
Yeah.
So just to run through a couple of the big usages, I mean, there's a whole bunch of places that it shows up. In flags, there are a lot of flags that use like stars or dots in that 5-point shape. The flag of the Solomon Islands has 5 stars in a quincunx, and the coat of arms of Portugal has in septiquincunx. It's got 5 shields arranged in a cross, and then inside each shield are 5 dots in an X in a quincunx.
Wow.
Yeah.
They must have read Thomas Brown.
They must have read the quincunxial lozenge and thought, this is the way for us.
Real friend of the Portuguese, that guy.
Yeah, do you think he was like a national hero there for unrelated reasons? And
Yeah.
they said we'll throw a quincunx in our flag.
Throw him a bone. He needs this. He needs a win today.
He needs... So somebody said he had a radically bad book. We got to give him something. The pattern also shows up in architecture. There are a lot of old like churches and temples in certain cultures that had 5 towers or 5 domes. And also it shows up in certain styles of mosaics and stonework.
Oh, sure. Like kitchen tiling, like a backsplash.
Yeah, there was an Italian style of mosaics that used that pattern a lot. And then I also I ran across something called a quincunxial map, which is a way of like projecting, like visualizing the earth onto a flat space. And there are dozens of these, like the Mercator projection is one, and the Robinson projection are like the common ones.
I have no idea. To explain more about that.
So like when people try to make the sphere of the earth able to be visualized 2-dimensionally, like if you took the entire earth and laid it out flat, like, on Google Maps or in a school textbook.
Where does the quincunxial come into play?
So there are lots of different styles for how to make like a flat map of the earth.
The only type of earth that there is.
Oh, no.
Go on.
Yes. So, this is how we project the spherical earth onto a flat space. The Mercator projection is a common one. That's like basically a big rectangle. The one that you see a lot that's got like kind of oblong, like rounded edges, that's called the Robinson projection. That one is also used a lot.
Okay, yes. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about, Sam? I didn't explain it super well. If you want to, there's loads of these projections that you can look up. If you really want to lose your mind, look up one called retroazimuthal. We'll post it to the Instagram because no one's going to know how to spell what I just said. But there was another one created by a guy called Charles Sanders Peirce. He created a projection that basically his approach was he put the North Pole at the center of the map, and then the South Pole was at all the corners, kind of split into 4 and peeled out like an orange peel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then he like squared it off and kind of warped everything to make it fit into a square.
So the whole map is a square?
The whole map is a square, and it's like
I love that
warped,
so much.
but it's only warped at the equator. It's meant to be designed so that all the rest of the map is accurate, but it's just warped around the equator to make it fit
What's
into a
this
square.
map called?
It's called the Peirce quincunxial projection. And so like the main quincunx is the North Pole at the center and then the South Pole all around. But then there's like a tessellated version where it's like everything is doubled or quadrupled so that at some, like it's like tiled so that you get the whole earth from different perspectives all around it. It's very cool.
That is
very confusing
wild.
to look at, but
that is really interesting and like a good reason to use the word quincunxial.
Yes, it is. And also, I feel like not a bad approach to visualizing the Earth.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not.
It's confusing to look at, but I feel like it sort of works.
Yeah, I mean, it's like neat as a pin, to have it like in a square. And to have, like, everything leading south. I don't know. Yeah, there's something great about that.
Yeah, I think it's good. Good job, Charles Sanders Peirce.
We love you. Woo! Peirce!
Woo! Charles Sanders Peirce fan club. We're going to put you on our flag.
We know exactly what you look like, and we're going to have your face in a quincunxial pattern.
Oh my God, terrifying. Terrifying.
Starting from your nose out.
Oh no. Now we have to post that to the Instagram too.
Yep, no choice.
But of course, Kyle, as you said from the beginning, this pattern is most notably used on dice. And now, Kyle, I want to ask you, if you had to guess when or where dice were first invented, what do you think you would say?
Without a doubt, right off the bat, I'd say
Yep.
when, 1700s, where, Caribbean islands, who, Jack Sparrow, and Barbossa, Captain Barbossa.
Wow. All right.
They did it. It was them.
I mean, I think all of what you said was wrong, even in context to itself.
Yeah, that sounds about right. No, I mean, I would imagine that they were... I assumed that they were very old. Maybe not necessarily
right.
the quincunxial pattern, but I would be like, oh, dice have been around since, I don't know, cave people were eating sticks or whatever they did.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It was sort of a trick question. We don't actually know when or where exactly dice were first invented because they predate recorded history.
Wow.
We do know that archaeologists have found 6-sided dice, like with the dots on them and everything, with the quincunx on the 5 side, from multiple dig sites around Eurasia, the old world, dated as far back as the 2000s or possibly even 3000s BC.
Wow.
Yeah, dice are old.
It makes sense because it's just like such an easy thing and like I feel like such a convenient thing that people could use it for, for things.
Yeah, and there are like other simpler forms of dice that are even older than that. There's like originally there was a game called Knuckle Bones, which is kind of similar to like jacks, and those knuckle bones are sort of considered like the earliest form of dice, even though they didn't have numbers on them.
Didn't they eventually have like inscriptions of like runes in them or something? I don't know. I looked into that one time.
I think as they were headed towards dice, yeah.
Just pictures of their loved ones drawn on them.
Listen, I'm just gonna say this was an information heavy episode and a bit light episode, and I do apologize.
No. I mean, listen,
I had a lot to say.
Of bits.
I was excited.
I mean, listen, quincunx, crazy word. Can I tell you, like, so the first thing I imagine when I started thinking of the pattern, like a checkerboard pattern, is I once made a quincunxial pigs in a blanket.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was like full hot dogs on a tray woven with dough through it.
Oh.
And so that was the first thing that came to my mind when you were describing that.
That's so complicated.
It was not worth it. It was very complicated and immediately fell apart when you tried to eat it.
Just like that book.
Yeah, exactly.
Very complicated and immediately fell apart. But beautiful, as I assume your pigs in a blanket quincunx was.
Yes, it was. It opened my eyes, truly, to things I had never imagined. I imagined a cobweb of, I don't know, ketchup and mustard hanging above my head in the stars.
And you made cables of that cobweb.
Yeah, I made cables of that.
All right, Kyle, let's do a game now. So, Kyle, I hope you enjoyed trying to guess the origins of dice, because you're about to do that for a bunch of other things.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
This week's game is called Where'd We Get That? And basically, I'm going to give you a game or game piece, and you can guess where in the world it came from.
Yeah. No, this is fun. I like that.
And these ones have more firm answers than dice did.
Gotcha. Yes, thank you. They're not all going to be trick answers. Actually, we're pretty sure this came from a celestial body.
All right, Kyle, where do you think playing cards came from?
So I'm talking about like the time period or like the
whatever you want to guess, Kyle, whatever you want to take a stab at.
Playing cards. I mean, I heavily associate playing cards with Alice in Wonderland. So I'm going to say they're Chinese.
You got it.
Wow.
When you said Alice in Wonderland, I was like, wow, I feel like he's pretty far afield.
I thought about it a little longer and was like, no, they got to be older than that.
You got it. They do come from China. Most likely the 13th century. It's a little bit debated exactly what we're considering playing cards and what we're considering just pieces of paper with numbers on them.
Yeah.
But we think it's the 13th century. There's a legal document that was uncovered describing two gamblers who were arrested in the late 1200s. And they were arrested playing a game with paper cards printed using like woodblock printing.
Hey, that's fun.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, I wonder what those looked like.
There was sort of debate whether like what was considered cards and what was considered tiles. And that goes into like mahjong tiles too. There was like a Chinese word that could mean either cards or tiles. Also kind of similar, where do you think dominoes came from?
I mean, is it China again? Is it from
Yeah,
mahjong tiles? Yeah. China again.
Yeah. Also, around the same time, likely the 13th century, there was a document that was sort of like a current events document for, I think, the city of Hangzhou that was talking about like peddlers coming through town selling dice and dominoes. And that's like the earliest written record of dominoes.
That's great.
Now, we talked about the origins of 6-sided dice. Where do you think the earliest 20-sided dice came from?
I'm going to have to assume...
Because I'm a D&D nerd, we got to talk about 20-sided dice.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to assume it was... What's his face? Gorlax?
Pretty close.
He just made it up on the spot.
Gary Gygax? You think he just invented 20-sided dice when he invented Dungeons and Dragons?
He's just like, man, I got a lot of numbers here, and we don't got smartphones yet, so I guess I'm just gonna have to put them on these cubes that
just
are now not cubes.
Carve this rock into a 20-sided sphere. No, actually, the oldest known 20-sided die was uncovered in Egypt and dated back to the 2nd century BC.
Wow.
So pretty old. And it's interesting because it was discovered in Egypt, but it is inscribed with Greek letters rather than Egyptian hieroglyphs, because at the time, Egypt was under Greek Ptolemaic rule.
I wonder what they would have used that for.
I think games of chance.
Yeah, you don't think they were just like, I want a random number today. like how you can just Google random number generator and get that up?
Well, yes, but the context that it's used for is often games. Kyle, where do you think billiards comes from?
Well, if I had to guess, billiards. Oh, it's gotta be French.
Yeah, you got it. Billiards.
Yeah, I got it. Billiards.
It reeks of French. Yeah, so billiards, like the table games, we're pretty sure evolved from like outdoor ball and stick games like croquet and things like that.
Croquet, yeah.
But the first indoor billiards table was in France in the 1400s, owned by one of the King Louis.
We don't know which one.
We do. I just didn't write it down.
Or are you not going to tell me? Is it a secret?
Update. It was King Louis the 11th. There's too many Louis.
Is that the one that was the orangutan in Jungle Book?
No, I'm wrong. It was King Louis the 14th. Jeez Louise.
Oh, is he the Sun King? Is that the one?
I don't even know. France has got too many Louis.
Yeah, I think it is the Sun King.
Oh, you're right. It is the Sun King. Wow. How so smart.
I remembered one thing from middle school. Middle school? I don't know.
All right, Kyle, last one here. What do you think, or where do you think the earliest board game came from?
Just board game in general?
Yeah, because there were two really major ones from the same part of the world.
So it's got to be ancient Rome or Greece.
No, older.
Older than that? There's humanity before then?
Yeah, the dawn of humanity. Or civilization.
It Sumerian?
It's Mesopotamia.
Wow. A Mesopotamian!
Yeah. So the generally accepted earliest board game is a game called the Royal Game of Ur, U-R, invented in Mesopotamia in the early 3000s BC and was popular all over the Middle East.
Is that like he was like at the patent office and they're like, all right, what are you going to call it? Oh, it's the Royal Game of and they were like, okay,
writing it down. That's it.
That's it.
Where's your 50
schmeckles? Yeah.
Here's your 50 asses.
Asses.
Yeah.
That's fun. We should play that. We should get a copy.
Yeah. So there was the Royal Game of Ur in the early 3000s BC. And then there was another game called Senet in Egypt, which was invented in the 2000s BC. And the main thing is it involved throwing two like throwing sticks that were sort of another like early form of dice, but they were just flat. They just had two sides. They both had like a board, and they had like the board would slide out to a box where you'd keep all the pieces. And the two games were so popular that archaeologists have found like reversible boxes that had the two boards on each side.
That is so fun.
Isn't that so fun?
Wow, what an aesthetic ancient history had.
It's a little 2-in-1 game that's all compact with all the pieces inside. I was like, that's like if I saw that in a store today, I'd be like, oh, what a fun new idea. But it's the oldest idea.
That is so fun. I love that.
Yeah. That's all we have time for. Hey, listen, you guys, we are all over the internet, and you should come find us.
Yes, you can find us on Facebook.
You can find us on Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast.
You could also find us on Patreon, where we've got some exclusive content, our After Hours podcast, Buttered Parsnips.
That's right. If you want your parsnips buttered, you got to shell out.
It's a gamble, but
it's true.
It might pay off.
It's true. Based on how rambling this episode was, you can only imagine how rambly the late night version is.
Don't even worry about it, Emily. Seth's going to cut out every other word to make the episode quincunxial.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
But in any case, if you want to give us your support, which we greatly appreciate, you can do so at patreon.com/butternoparsnips.
And we are so happy to have you coming out to hear us. And we hope to hear you again next week for another quincunxial word.
You are hammering it home, and I appreciate that. I have been Emily.
I've been Kyle.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
Sayonara.
Thank you for listening to Butter No Parsnips. Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Gliksman, Emily Moyers, and Kyle Imperatore. The theme music and additional music is by Kyle Imperatore. If you liked listening to this episode, subscribe and give us a good rating and or positive review wherever you heard it. If you really liked listening, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. There you can get bonus content you can't get anywhere else, like the monthly Patreon exclusive podcast Buttered Parsnips. Your support means the world to us and encourages us to keep making more. Thanks in advance, and we'll be back next week.